Hello and welcome once again. My name is Alan, and today we are doing our week in review. So let's go ahead and I'm actually pretty close to getting it back on the weekend again. Almost there. Early Monday morning this time instead of a Tuesday. But let's go ahead and look at sports. The NFL has started its preseason, but since it's preseason, we're not going to really look at it much till towards the end, right before probably opening day. We'll take a look at how the standings worked out on preseason and everything. But baseball season is still going on. Let's look at that. As of Friday, in the American League East, we have the Yankees leading with a record of 76-40. 9.5 games behind is the Tampa Bay Rays. And then the Boston Red Sox, the Toronto Blue Jays, and the Baltimore Orioles. In the AL Central, we have a tie for first between the Cleveland Indians and the Minnesota Twins, who both have records of 70-46. Behind both of them, the next closest team is the Chicago White Sox, but they are 18 games behind. And then the Kansas City Royals and the Detroit Tigers round out the division. In the American League West, the Houston Astros lead with a record of 76-40. The next closest team is 10 games behind, is the Oakland Athletics. And then behind them are the Texas Rangers, the Los Angeles Angels, and the Seattle Mariners rounding out the division. In the National League East, the Atlanta Braves lead with a record of 69-49. The Washington Nationals are 6.5 games behind, with the New York Mets, the Philadelphia Phillies, and the Miami Marlins rounding out the division. In the National League Central, we have the Chicago Cubs with a record of 63-53. 2.5 games behind. The next closest competitor is the Milwaukee Brewers. And then we have the St. Louis Cardinals, the Cincinnati Reds, and the Pittsburgh Pirates. And in the NL West, the Los Angeles Dodgers lead with a record of 77-41. Their next closest team is 17 games behind, and that is the Arizona Diamondbacks. And the division rounds out with the San Francisco Giants, San Diego Padres, and the Colorado Rockies in last place. And that is currently how Major League Baseball looks. Now, let's go ahead and talk about Science of the Week. All right, from sciencenews.org. Never mind about the absence of legs. A young gale midge, no bigger than a rice grain, can go airborne thanks to some clever latching. Pyro cumulonimbus. Cumulonimbus I keep wanting to squish everything together. Pyrocumulonimbus clouds are created by intense wildfires. One from a 2004 fire in Arizona is shown in the picture they have here. The fire clouds can reach higher into the stratosphere than scientists thought, where the plumes have climatic effects. Let's see. A proposed space telescope would use Earth's atmosphere as a lens. Are researchers asking the right questions to prevent mass shootings? Exploding stars scattered traces of iron over Antarctic snow. How these tiny insect larvae leap without legs. And the worst wildfires can send smoke high enough to affect the ozone layer. Miami is a U.S. city at the greatest risk of coastal flooding. Here, a 2009 storm brought 8 to 9 inches of rain to Miami Beach. And this futuristic metal ball was Fermilab's 4.5-meter bubble chamber. Decommissioned in 1988, it now is a prominent art piece called the Bubble Chamber Sculpture at the laboratory. I cannot talk. 50 years ago, Fermilab turned 2 bubbles. Just talking about that article I was reading. 1 in 4 people live in places at high risk of running out of water. Climate change has caused some severe issues. Now there are actually places at risk of running out of water. Mercury levels in fish are rising despite reduced emissions. Why people with celiac disease suffer so soon after eating gluten. Giant active galaxies from the early universe may have finally been found. How pieces of live human brain are helping scientists map nerve cells. Racist words and acts, like the El Paso shooting, harm children's health. A fungus makes a chemical that neutralizes the stench of skunk spray. With nowhere to hide from rising seas, Boston prepares for a wetter future. How the 5 riskiest U.S. cities for coastal flooding are preparing for rising tides. It baffles me how people think it's fake. We can see the effects now. Whatever. Readers respond to Lyme disease, fossil teeth, and a tesseract look-alike. Why this warmer world is not just a passing phase. Ancient Maya warfare flared up surprisingly early. A new map is the best view yet of how fast Antarctica is shedding ice. Decades of dumping acid suggest acid rain may make trees thirstier. Satellites are transforming how archaeologists study the past. And all those articles are directly off of sciencenews.org. Let's take a look at sciencemag.org. A mice In mice, a non-standard dosing schedule boosts a cancer drug's efficacy. Fields on fire, alternatives to crop residue burning in India. Dosing time matters. Mystery solved, why cats eat grass. Yeah, this is something I've seen a number of times. When cat will actually go and chew on grass for a moment. Fast radio burst. Single flash traced to its host galaxy. Ocean pigments capture energy. And a bacteria dissolving enzyme activates pain related pathways. Let's see. UC faculty members quit Cell Press editorial boards over impasse with publisher. Light reflected off fresh snow can outshine the moon. The world's biggest frogs build their own ponds. Boris Johnson pledges to ease UK research visas, but plows ahead toward Brexit. And those are all headlines from... Oh, we got one more here. Caught my eye. Tentacle microbe could be missing link between simple cells and complex life. Interesting. We may have found where simple cells split. What caused them to get a little more complex, and so they start being multi-celled organisms. That's interesting. But as I was going to say, those are all from sciencemag.org. Now, let's look at my YouTube list and see what there is in the forms of science and culture. Everything else here. Videos. Let's take a look. Nothing new there. Well, Bon Appetit. They've got two videos up. Pastry chef attempts to make gourmet Pop-Tarts. So Claire tries to make gourmet Pop-Tarts. Andy makes chicken skewers from the test kitchen. And Gabby makes empanadas from the test kitchen. That's from Bon Appetit. From Biographics. They have a piece on Nancy Wake, who was known as the White Mouse and was the Gestapo's most wanted. They have a video on Burke and Hare, the Anatomy Murderers, and Vidocq, the father of modern, or Vidocq, the father of modern criminology. Let's see, what else do we have? I feel it is important for you to have a little knowledge of culture and history and science. So, going over what we have here. From Fact Fiends, there's only one copy of the original Godzilla roar. And that time reporters dared a blind man to walk into traffic. Here we go. See if they have anything new. Nothing new there. Let's look at TED. They're bound to have something new on TED. They try to put up videos every other day or so. We have the future of psychedelic assisted psychotherapy. How education helped me rewrite my life. The world's first crowdsourced space traffic monitoring system. And why kids need to learn about gender and sexuality. And that was from TED, Technology, Education, and Design. We've got one video from Star Talk. They do a cosmic queries on neuroscience. So that ought to be interesting. I have so many pages that I've got saved. Let's see if they have anything new. Yes. Oh, no, they don't. They've got it for next week. That'll be on next week's. I really got to get these done quicker. And that's it on my YouTube page of the different pages I've got saved. So now, why don't we go ahead and look at this week in history. August the 3rd, 1958, Nautilus submarine travels under the North Pole. Okay, what else happened on August the 3rd? And stop it. August the 3rd, 1923. Calvin Coolidge takes the oath of office after Warren G. Harding's death. Let's see. August the 3rd, 1996. The Macarena begins its reign atop U.S. pop charts. I didn't really listen to the song, it's more the beat. Macarena. Hi. What else we got? August the 3rd, 1492. Columbus set sail from the Spanish port of Palos. Italian explorer Christopher Columbus set sail in command of 3 ships, the Santa Maria, the Pinta, and the Nina, on a journey to find a western sea route to China, India, and the fabled Gold and Spice Islands of Asia. Yeah, he thought the world was quite a bit smaller than it was. So it was like, whoop, it travels around so much quicker. You can reach these eastern countries by traveling westward. August the 3rd, 1846. The Donner Party encounters its first delay, an ominous sign of the troubles to come. The Donner Party finds a note warning the travelers that their expected route through the mountains ahead is nearly impassable. The Donner Party had left Springfield, Illinois 3 months earlier. And of course, they become famous for the party getting trapped in the snow. A few of them leaving to find the nearest fort, and the rest of them committing cannibalism that were left behind. Here's the paranoia of the Cold War. This particular incident right here. August the 3rd, 1948. Chambers accuses Hiss of being a communist spy. In the hearings before the House Un-American Activities Committee, Whittaker Chambers accuses former State Department official Alger Hiss of being a communist and a spy for the Soviet Union. It's part of the paranoia that racked the U.S. during the Cold War. And sadly, it feels like it's back under the Trump era. You know, they'll just cry, fake news, instead of providing actual news or providing the reasons why they claim it's fake. August the 4th, 1944. Anne Frank is captured. At the age of only 15. Her diary gives us the story of the days before she is captured. And it serves such an amazing purpose for historical fact. Okay. August the 4th, 1964, slain civil rights workers found. The remains of 3 civil rights workers whose disappearance on June the 21st garnered national attention are found buried in an earthen dam near Philadelphia, Mississippi. Michael Schwerner and Andrew Goodman both traveled to New York, or both white New Yorkers, had traveled to the heavily segregated Philadelphia, Mississippi in 1964 to help organize civil rights efforts on behalf of the Congress of Racial Equality. The third man, James Chaney, was a local African American man who had joined CORE in 1963. The disappearance of the 3 young men led to a massive FBI investigation that was codenamed MIBURN, MIBURN, for Mississippi Burning. If you've never watched Mississippi Burning, I have. It's a good movie. It tells a lot about that history. Anyway, also on August the 4th, 1892, Lizzie Borden's parents found dead. Andrew and Abby Borden were found hacked to death in their Fall River, Massachusetts home. Andrew was discovered in a pool of his own blood in the living room, on the living room couch, his face nearly split in two. Abby was upstairs, her head smashed to pieces. And August the 4th, 1914, the U.S. proclaimed neutrality in World War I. We would eventually join the war in late 1917. And it would end that next year in 1918. But yeah, at first we tried to stay out of it. It's one of the reasons we became a wealthy nation is because we were selling um, a lot of things to different countries because they needed the supplies. But after we started losing some ships and stuff, we was like, all right, enough of this. Anyway, August the 5th, 1962, Marilyn Monroe is found dead. All right, there we go. Let's see, what else on August the 5th? August the 5th, 1976, the NBA merges with the ABA. The National Basketball Association merges with its rival, the American Basketball Association, and takes on the ABA's four most successful franchises: the Denver Nuggets, the Indiana Pacers, the New York, later Brooklyn Nets, and the San Antonio Spurs. Let's see. Alright, that was all for the 5th. Let's see what happened on the 6th. My legs are killing me. I gotta rearrange them. Okay. Anyway. August the 6th, 1945, American bomber drops an atomic bomb on Hiroshima. So, I think that was the little boy. Little boy on Hiroshima and the fat man on Nagasaki. If I remember history correctly. Also on August the 6th, what do we have? August the 6th, 1787. First draft of the Constitution is debated. In Philadelphia, delegates of the Constitutional Convention begin debating the first complete draft of the proposed Constitution of the United States. The Articles of Confederation, ratified several months before the British surrender at Yorktown in 1781, had provided for a loose form of government, but it had no real central governmental powers, which made it difficult to pay off debts because they couldn't propose a central income tax because many of the states had their own forms of money. That looks like everything on the 6th. Let's look at the 7th. Okay. August the 7th, 1782, George Washington creates the Purple Heart. It was called the Badge for Military Merit. And was to be presented to soldiers for any singularly meritorious action, and permitted its wearers to pass guards and sentinels without challenge. The honoree's name and regiment were also to be inscribed in a book of merit. Washington's Purple Heart was awarded to only 3 known soldiers during the Revolutionary War: Elijah Churchill, William Brown, and Daniel Bissell, Jr. The Book of Merit was lost, and the decoration was largely forgotten until 1927, when General Charles P. Summerall, the U.S. Army Chief of Staff, sent an unsuccessful draft bill to Congress to revive the Badge of Military Merit. In 1931, Summerall's successor, General Douglas MacArthur, took up the cause, hoping to reinstate the medal in time for the bicentennial of George Washington's birth. On February the 22nd, 1932, Washington's 200th birthday, the U.S. War Department announced the creation of the Order of the Purple Heart. Let's see what else happened on August the 7th. Let's see. August the 7th, 1998. U.S. embassies in East Africa bombed. At 10:30 a.m. local time, a massive truck bomb explodes outside the U.S. Embassy in Nairobi, Kenya. Minutes later, another truck bomb detonated outside of the U.S. Embassy in Dar es Salaam, the capital of neighboring Tanzania. Let's see. August the 7th, 1912. Teddy Roosevelt nominated as the Bull Moose candidate. Teddy Roosevelt was nominated for the presidency by the Progressive Party, a group of Republicans dissatisfied with the nomination of President William Howard Taft, also known as the Bull Moose Party. So, Teddy Roosevelt was a progressive. Even though he was a Republican when he was president, he was a progressive. Let's see what else. That looks like it for the 7th. Let's look at August the 8th. August the 8th, 1974. Nixon resigns. Impeachment talks had already begun in the House. They had agreed upon them, And so all the Senate had to do was set them in motion, but Nixon resigned. August the 8th, 1844, Brigham Young chosen to lead Mormon Church. After Joseph Smith, the founder and prophet of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or the Mormon Church, and his brother Hiram were murdered by an angry mob in Illinois' prison 6 weeks earlier, Elder Brigham Young is chosen to be the Mormon Church's next leader. Okay. What else? August the 8th, 1945, President Truman signs the United Nations Charter. President Harry S. Truman signs the United Nations Charter, and the United States becomes the first nation to complete the ratification process and join the new international organization. August the 8th, 1863. Robert E. Lee offers resignation as commander of the Confederate Army. In the aftermath of his defeat at Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, Confederate General Robert E. Lee sends a letter of resignation as commander of the Army of Northern Virginia to Confederate President Jefferson Davis. Clearly, Davis denied that. Because honestly, you have no one else as decorated as Robert E. Lee to lead the South, lead the Confederacy. Okay. And August the 9th, 1974, Gerald Ford becomes president after Richard Nixon resigns. So Nixon's vice president, Gerald Ford, takes over. Also on the 9th, 1969, Manson cult kills 5 people. Members of Charles Manson's cult kill 5 people in movie director Roman Polanski's Beverly Hills, California home, including Polanski's pregnant wife, actress Sharon Tate. August the 9th, 1936, Jesse Owens wins 4th gold medal. It was the 4th of the games, which were 1936 in Berlin. So you had an African American athlete winning gold medals in Nazi Germany at the Olympics. That had to be irritating for Hitler. And August the 9th, 1945, atomic bomb dropped on Nagasaki. So yeah, a few days earlier it was Hiroshima and then Nagasaki. Just a matter of days. And that is our look at the week in history. Now, let's look at our top idiots of the week. We have Tucker Carlson for trying to proclaim that white supremacy is a hoax. Shut up, Tucker. Newt Gingrich for not understanding why Bernie is angry and rage-filled. For the same damn reason other people are. For the rich take everything from the people. The American people deserve something instead of, that sneers of the rich. That's why we're angry. We have people dying when we're supposed to be the richest country in the world. We have this giant-ass poverty rate when we're supposed to be the richest in the world. Why is he so angry and rage-filled? Shut the fuck up, Gingrich. Rush Limbaugh for trying to claim Democrats are using climate change to trick voters. Really? It's science! There's facts, jackass! What do I expect? It's Limbaugh, though. He don't give a crap about truth, about facts. Homer Limbaugh! We have John Delaney for running to Fox News so his ideas can be treated with kid gloves. Because, he's so sad that he keeps getting a mud hole stomped in him every time he tries to talk about, health care. Because he tries to say it should be a right to make money on health care. Not that everyone should have health care. Shut the fuck up, Delaney. Liz Cheney for being a dumbass for getting called out by Bernie because she was already being a dumbass. Liz Cheney is far, far overrated. Kirsten Gillibrand for getting smacked down by Biden when she tried to go after him at the debate. Joe Biden for continuing his mental meltdown as a primary candidate. Poor people were just as good as white people. And rich people. And black. Really, Biden? He said that stupidity. Poor people were just as good as white people. Really, Joe? Shut the fuck up, Joe. Shut the fuck up. We have Nancy Pelosi for being a moron and not realizing that progressivism is the future of the Democratic Party. And Donald Trump for still being the complete and utter moron he has always been. And that is the idiots of the week. So finally, let's look at the news of the week. On Saturday, from Secular Talk, best of Andrew Yang's solid debate performance. Booker and de Blasio body the melting brain of Joe Biden. And Kirsten Gillibrand flops with an attack on Joe Biden. From Status Quo, Bernie versus Biden, a striking tale of two debate parties. Bernie Sanders supporter responds to MSNBC's skin crawl comment with his plans disproportionately help women. A homeless worker calls for 2020 candidates to help, saying, "People are out here freezing, dying, and ODing." And an anti-war activist says Democrats are really blowing it. Bernie would beat Trump. From TBTV, corporate socialism. It's not about Republicans and Democrats. Tulsi Gabbard gets major shade at MSNBC. From the Rational National, Michael Moore offers Democrats good and bad advice. From Democracy Now!, Tony Tempa's death shines a light on ongoing problems of poor police training. And the Maku sound system in conversation and performance on Democracy Now! From the Humanist Report, Jake Tapper confronts Bernie Sanders for criticizing CNN's big pharma advertisers. Bernie Sanders rebuts Biden and Booker's lies about his progressive policies. From Vice News, this dating service will flirt for you, but it'll cost you. And from MCSC, Yang's impressive underrated debate performance. On Sunday, from TBTV, Bernie Sanders staying true to himself above all else. From the Patriot Act, the dark side of the video game industry. And it's more about how the workers are just used, more or less, is what it actually talks about. And from last week tonight, John talks about prison labor. On Monday, from Secular Talk, back-to-back massacres hits U.S., surprising nobody. Fox News and GOP blame meanness in video games for shootings. Media gleefully smears Tulsi after she exposed Kamala. Bernie invites Liz Cheney to shut the fuck up, Seville. Status Quo. El Paso massacre. Trump didn't start Hispanic invasion fear-mongering, but he doubled down on it. El Paso massacre shooting wasn't just barbaric. He was wrong on who's really taking U.S. jobs. El Paso killer's automation rant has nothing to do with Hispanic immigrants. Trump and Republicans' economic hoodwinking is behind the shooter's manifesto. Republicans are obsessed with life inside the womb. Once out, they don't give a flying fuck. From the Rational National, Republicans blame video games for mass shootings. Beto swears at the press over their dumb questions. From TBTV, El Paso, Texas, Dayton, Ohio. How, why, and now what? A special Tim Black show. From Democracy Now! 29 killed as 2 mass shootings took place before the weekend. Nationwide calls for Walmart to stop selling guns and ammunition. Both cases are domestic terrorism cases. 8chan founder says he wants the site shut down. U.S. Democratic lawmakers calling for the House back into session to vote on gun safety bills. Shooter at the Ohio shooting killed 9 people in under a minute before the police arrived. The Philadelphia Union captain grabbed a microphone and called for congressional action after scoring a goal. Hong Kong protests continue and grow, and arrests are being made. India announced it is revoking Kashmir's special status as the conflict with Pakistan continues. Iran says it seized another foreign oil tanker, this time from Iraq. Iran turned down an invitation to talk with the U.S., which Iran says the U.S. refused peaceful action with its sanctions. Protests in Russia grow. Sudan's transitional government signed a document to go to civilian rule. Mexican journalists calling for action after 3 more journalists are killed. Pedro Pierre Luisi sworn in as the new Puerto Rican governor, but not confirmed by the Senate in Puerto Rico. U.S. federal prosecutors accuse Honduran President Hernandez of protecting drug groups, and Antonia Gonzalez is dead and his daughter in custody as they sought help in the U.S. Ratcliffe will be withdrawn from nomination as head of security. Daniel Pantaleo recommended to be fired by judge. We also have El Paso shooting probed as domestic terrorism after anti-immigrant gunman kills 20 people. After the Dayton shooting, gun violence reporter says misogyny is a clear link between many mass shootings. An ex-FBI agent speaks out. Federal authorities have downplayed white supremacist violence for too long. El Paso shooting reflects Trump's racist agenda and anti-immigrant hatred. Nobody actually accounts for this violence. How the FBI fails to track white supremacist terrorism. From Philip DeFranco. Phil talks about the shootings in El Paso and Dayton. From the Humanist Report. How Trump's white supremacy leads to violence. Trump idiotically blames video games for the tragedy in El Paso and Dayton. Really, I mean, how are video games responsible? We tried this with Mortal Kombat. Remember? There was all these hearings. Video games cause violence. No. From Vice News. Inside Uganda's unregulated and overcrowded child orphanage industry. From C-SPAN. President Trump's complete remarks on mass shootings. And President Trump says hate has no place in America, even though there's very fine people on both sides. I added that last part, but he said hate has no place in America. Yet, earlier in his presidency, during the Charlottesville incident, there's very fine people on both sides. He's a racist jackass. From some more news. Some good news. On Tuesday. From Secular Talk. Biden tells young people not to vote for him. Bill Maher somehow keeps getting worse and worse. Bernie's grassroots dominance in 2 charts. Reporters' silly mental gymnastics to downplay Tulsi Gabbard. From Status Quo, Joe Biden supporters on Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All says it's not going to happen. Bernie Sanders supporter on Biden pushing private insurance says, I absolutely do not like my insurance. Bernie Sanders supporter says the second Democratic debate was a win for the progressive movement. Bernie Sanders was dominating in donations across the country. Why CNN blacking out Bernie Sanders supporters at Democratic debate should worry progressives. From the Rational National, Eddie Glaude rips the mask off white America. And only the top 2020 candidate has 0 billionaire donors. And that's Bernie Sanders. From TBTV, Bill Maher gives Democrats the worst advice ever on defeating Trump. Bernie Sanders, Bernie on Joe Rogan, de Blasio on Bernie remarks, and Mike Gravel. From Democracy Now! Death toll in El Paso shooting goes up. Trump calls for pushback on racism even after the shooter quoted him. Trump continued to claim video games, mental health, and the internet is to blame for the shootings. Trump named the wrong town during the speech about the shootings. Pipe bomber Cesar Sayoc sentenced. Kashmir on lockdown as the tensions between India and Pakistan continues. Crisis in Puerto Rico continues as the governor was sworn in but not agreed upon by the Senate. China listed as a currency manipulator by the U.S. Stocks dropped in response. New sanctions issued on Venezuelan government of Maduro. Drone strikes in southwest Libya kill citizens. R. Kelly charged in Minnesota for soliciting a minor. Police in Galveston, Texas, apologized after leading a black man down the street with a rope around his neck. 2 of the largest newspaper publishers merging. We also have Never Apologize, how the NRA fights gun control even after mass shootings. We can't wait for McConnell. Advocates call for bold action to curb gun violence epidemic. Puerto Rico in political crisis. Senate sues over appointment of new governor Pierluisi. Parents of Parkland victim plan to unveil a mural in El Paso. Then another mass shooting happened. Fascism will not go away by itself. George Cicarello Mar on confronting white supremacy. After recent massacres, what do gun control advocates want? Trump uses NRA talking points after Texas, Ohio massacres. From Philip DeFranco. Drug dealer De Silva tried to break out of prison dressed as his daughter and failed, later committing suicide. A grandmother stopped a mass shooting planned by her grandson by convincing him to let her take him to the hospital. India revoked the Kashmir Constitution as tensions rise between India and Pakistan over their split control of the region, and the planned changes by India has sparked fears of Muslim-Hindu clashes in the region. From the Humanist Report, Bernie Sanders demonstrates why he's the leader we need during times of crisis. And the Humanist Report Live. From Vice News, the boot camp where soldiers train to be pro-life foot soldiers. From C-SPAN, Vice President Pence says what happened this weekend were acts of pure evil. From Rogue Rocket, are you being tricked? Huge e-scooter controversy surrounding location privacy and data sharing. From MCSC, is Tulsi wavering on Medicare for all? Tulsi's meeting with Assad, what they aren't telling you. And Bernie dominates debates, but Biden leads the polls. Wait, what? On Wednesday, from Secular Talk, D.C. Cretans chastise Warren for ruling out offensive nuclear strikes. Fox host says only 27 million Americans don't have health insurance. Failed candidate John Delaney gets an ego boost from Fox News blockheads. Rush Limbaugh offers dumbest possible take on Democratic debate. Newt Gingrich is shocked that Bernie is angry and rage-filled. Michael Moore's very weird 2020 election commentary. From Status Quo, Joe Biden supporter says Susan Sarandon and Nina Turner helped elect this racist bigot, which I disagree with wholly. Bernie Sanders calls out CNN for big pharma advertising during the Democratic debate. Joe Biden supporter hopes he evolves from pay to play with rich donors. Here's how CNN blocked Bernie Sanders supporters at Detroit Democratic debate. From the Rational National, Rational Live, morning scroll through Twitter. Mike Gravel drops out and endorses Bernie for 2020. From TBTV, Tulsi takes 2 weeks off the campaign trail. From Democracy Now!, Trump visits Dayton and El Paso after shootings, despite resistance. Ohio's Republican Governor Mike DeWine supports some gun control after being confronted by chants of "do something." El Paso gunman's family released a letter denouncing the shooting. FBI releasing domestic terrorism investigation into the shooting at the Gilroy Garlic Festival. Kentucky residents gathering outside Mitch McConnell's home, protesting him, saying he would block gun control legislation. Walmart workers to walk out to protest selling guns and ammunition. Toni Morrison passes away. Human rights groups demanding Nigeria release journalists. The U.S. warns Turkey against incursions into Syria. 17 countries at risk of running out of water. Tiffany Caban conceded to Melissa Katz to be Queen's DA. New York Supreme Court ruled in favor of students at Fordham to create club that fights for justice for Palestine. Dartmouth reached agreement with some women who accused rape and sexual harassment. Federal judge blocked Arkansas 18-week abortion ban just days before it was to go into effect. Cyntoia Brown was released from prison where she was for killing her rapist. We also have Toni Morrison, Angela Davis, Nikki Giovanni, and Sonia Sanchez pay tribute. Sonia Sanchez on the miracle of Toni Morrison's life and work. Angela Davis, Nikki Giovanni, and Sonia Sanchez on the crisis in America and the death of Toni Morrison. And Angela Davis on Toni Morrison. Her words have radically altered the lives we live. From Philip DeFranco, YouTuber Brooke House gets exposed for her treatment of her dog after posting the wrong video. Disney announces bundle in Disney Plus and exclusives. Tucker Carlson calls white supremacy a hoax. Honduran president under pressure during protests to step down after court filings suggest he received money from drug dealers. From the Humanist Report, yes, Medicare for All gets rid of private insurance, and that's a good thing. Actually, it don't technically get rid of private insurance. I don't know where Mike gets this idea. It makes it harder, but they can still do stuff like plastic surgery, dental implants, stuff like that, and try to cover that. Because I'm pretty sure Medicare for All is only going to cover what is medically necessary, what is a medical necessity to help people. From Vice News, when the El Paso congresswoman learned the massacre was underway. From C-SPAN, Representative Elijah Cummings on the mass shootings. Representative Cummings says, I want President Trump to come to my district. On Thursday, from Status Quo, Joe Biden supporter says, we can't spend all the time in the world talking about the past. Arizona police terrorizing immigrants and minorities. Bernie Sanders supporter at the Biden debate watch party says, I've seen retirement homes with more energy. From Secular Talk, Bernie Sanders meets Joe Rogan. They have an experience. Bernie surges in post-debate poll. 2 Democrats drop out of the presidential race. And India's Modi launches authoritarian crackdown on Kashmir. From the Rational National, Democratic Socialism Explained with Christo Aivalis. And an American man dies after being deported to Iraq simply because he was born there, but moved at like 6 months old to Greece before finally moving to the U.S. This deportation crap has got to stop. It's ridiculous. From TBTV, Washington Post, Small donor report good for Bernie Sanders and Andrew Yang. From Democracy Now! Humans are consuming land and water at unprecedented rate, according to climate scientists. Federal agents swept through poultry processing plants in Mississippi during Trump's visits to the mass shooting cities. Trump posed for photos on his trip to the cities that suffered mass shootings, even posing for one with 2 thumbs up, laughing and talking about the size of his rallies. The man never stops. He don't care about people. Thousands protested Trump and his language in El Paso. Trump tries to tie Antifa with white supremacy. Many leaders speak out against white supremacy. Tucker Carlson under fire for trying to claim white supremacy is a hoax, the lying bastard. Supposed sister of Ohio shooter that he shot was transgender. Wanda Vasquez, now sworn in as Puerto Rico governor. Bomb goes off, killing many in Afghanistan. Boston police under fire for destroying wheelchairs of the poor. We also have Under Siege. India moves to annex Kashmir, heightening tension with nuclear rival Pakistan. Emergency doctor to Trump says, "You are wrong. Mental illness is not to blame for gun violence epidemic." Siddhartha Deb says, with Kashmir crisis, India reveals its democracy is a sham. And Mirza Waheed says, India has always treated Kashmir like a colony. From Philip DeFranco. The owner of Equinox Gems and Soul Cycle is being boycotted for trying to throw a Trump rally. Brookhouse animal cruelty being looked into by the LAPD. Rosselló resigns. Pierluisi does not take governorship. And Wanda Vasquez sworn in after initially refusing the position of governor. From the Humanist Report, Mike Gravel officially ends his 2020 campaign and endorses Bernie Sanders and Tulsi Gabbard. Bernie Sanders discusses problems with the reality TV format of Democratic debates. From Vice News, El Paso was fuming over Trump's visit. Hong Kong police fired 800 tear gas rounds in one day, infuriating protesters. Inside Senator Chuck Grassley's town hall after the El Paso and Dayton shootings. From C-SPAN, Cynthia Miller Idris on white supremacy. From Road Rocket, no more helium, while the global helium shortage is a cause for concern. From MCSC, Kamala's black support drops to 1% after Tulsi exposes her. Trump administration tried to assassinate Maduro. Breaking down the Gravel endorsement debacle. From the Patriot Act, Hassan shares his Brexit theory. And from The Intercept, Hong Kong protests, umbrella on fire. Finally, from on Friday, from Secular Talk, Fox News immigration coverage is not pretty. specific Trump donors called out and shamed. U.S. seizing Venezuelan food shipments, implementing full embargo. And let me remind you, this food does not mean to go to Maduro. It means to go to the people of Venezuela. But the U.S. is seizing it, starving these people. Police destroy wheelchairs for the homeless, throw out their possessions. From Status Coup, what really happened at the Democratic debates? A Joe Biden supporter says he's not the best candidate, but the best to beat Trump. Why Democrats need to go bolder in proposing eco-socialist Green New Deal. From the Rational National, you believe what Joe Biden said this time? Yeah, he said, the poor is just as smart as white kids. Gaffe machine. I've said this over and over. And yet they're still pushing him. From TBTV, Bernie Sanders on the Joe Rogan podcast, a major success. Kamala Harris slipping into several polls since the debate. From Democracy Now!, Mitch McConnell said he will not take up a special Senate recess for gun control, but that he and Trump are working on it. Sure. Reporters barred from Trump's visit from the Trumps during their visit to El Paso to visit victims, who refused to allow them to even visit them in the first place. But phone footage showed Trump at the hospital laughing and bragging about crowd size. A 20-year-old white man in Springfield, Missouri sparked fears by walking into a Walmart with guns and body armor on. BuzzFeed reports on the treatment of immigrants after they tried to revolt at an immigrant prison in Louisiana. Mississippi ICE raids arrest many and leave children coming home from school with no parents. Man deported to Iraq, where he died even though he only lived in Iraq from birth to about 5 months. Hong Kong protests continue. Joseph Maguire is the new choice to be the Director of National Intelligence. A new report shows Monsanto used to surveil on certain reporters and activists. Supreme Court in Brazil said attempts to arrest Greenwald by Bolsonaro violated the Brazil Constitution. SoulCycle and Equinox Gyms and Miami Dolphins owner boycotted for wanting to do a fundraiser with Trump. We also have supersizing climate change. UN says meat production destroys land and diminishes key water sources. Documents reveal Monsanto surveilled journalists, activists, and even musician Neil Young. Mass ICE raids in Mississippi after workers fought for better conditions leaves kids without parents. ICE raided 7 Mississippi poultry plants after workers fought for their rights. Which I guarantee you, where the owner wasn't arrested, he probably did it on purpose. So he says, you're going to get do all this and cost me money, and has them taken away. I guarantee you he did that. Is Trump a white supremacist? Chokwe Antar Lumumba says yes. From the Humanist Report, is Tulsi Gabbard waffling on Medicare for all? Diabetic groom passes away after buying cheaper insulin to save money for wedding. From Vice News, ICE conducted the largest single state raid in American history. Hong Kong protesters are pissed police are arresting them for rioting. And gamers have had it with being scapegoated for gun violence. From C-SPAN, Andrew Yang calls President Trump a white supremacist. From Vox, why do so many suburbs look the same? And from MCSC, Epstein, Governor Richardson, how connected were they? Mike Figueredo suggests Tulsi not really for Medicare for all. And Biden wants you to know poor people are just as smart as white people. And that is the news of the week. As always, educate thyself, think, read, study, learn. I mean, please. Please. I gotta move my legs again. Alright. I hope you all have a good rest of your day. I'll see you all again in the next video. But until then, later.